for anyone who's listening who's like, yeah, learning it is a challenge, but once you know it, it's actually quite fun. It's actually quite easy and enjoyable. It's just that initial learning curve.
Hi everyone, for this new interview I'm super happy to have one of the most influential real-time VFX artists in the world, the godfather of sparkles, trails and explosion, Jason Kaiser. He's a former senior VFX artist at Riot Games on League of Legends and the founder and mentor on VFX Apprentice, the online VFX learning program. You will find a link in the description below. Let's get started. Hi Jason, how are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing good too. I'm super happy to have you on the channel. So can you introduce yourself for the people who don't know you?
I'm Jason Kaiser. I am a visual effects artist for games and television. I worked at Riot Games for about 6 years. Before that, I worked at various other smaller studios. And about a year ago, I quit Riot Games to pursue my dream business of teaching effects animation. So I founded VFXapprentice.com, and I do teaching full time now. So
Okay, cool.
that's the quick nutshell. I guess we'll get into more of the nitty-gritty details here
Absolutely.
in a minute.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So just before that, where are you from?
I was born in Idaho, which is like kind of middle of nowhere, United States, and then I grew up in Utah, which is slightly less middle of nowhere. It's like kind of in the west. It's not all the way to California for those not super familiar with that area. Yeah, it's just mountains and beautiful wilderness and like small cities. Lots of skiing and snowboarding in the mountains. It's really
Okay,
fun.
cool. And you moved recently to a new place and you're still in that region?
Yeah, so for work, I went to California, to Los Angeles to work at Riot Games, and I was there for 6 years, and then I came to Texas when I quit. So now we're out here in the Austin area. It's great. The weather's great, and it's a lot cheaper than California.
Yeah,
So
I guess so, yeah.
it ends up being pretty good.
Okay, so I always start the interviews with some fast random question just to get warmed up and get relaxed, you know? What's your favorite
All right.
color?
My favorite color is purple.
Are you more cat or dog?
Dog.
Okay. What's your favorite band or musical artist?
Oh, that's a hard one. I
You
don't
can
know. I
name a
love
few.
Jimmy Eat World from my high school days. They're amazing. I guess I'll
Okay,
just go
cool.
with them. Sure.
Okay. Even hardest one, your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, this is such a hard question. I don't really know. Right now, in our house, we're watching Croods 2. It's so much better than the first one. It's hilarious and amazing, and we love it.
Your favorite moment of the day?
My favorite moment of the day
Yeah.
is when we get the kids down for bed and it's time for just my wife and I to chill, watch a show, snuggle up on the couch, and just enjoy the quiet.
Are you more water or fire?
Am I more water or fire? I try to be more like water. I like the Bruce Lee quote that you should be like water. It's adaptable, it moves and it flows with the situation, but it can also be very powerful and strong when it needs to be. Yeah,
Shape or color?
I'm more of a shape guy. I don't know. That's a hard one though, because
Yeah,
colors are
but
so
that's
beautiful.
yeah.
You need them both. But I do shape first. I think without good shapes, even the best color won't make it a good
Yeah,
drawing. And so I think
yes.
I'm more of a foundations
Silhouette
kind of
first.
person.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Your favorite drink?
I just like water. Just good old fashioned
Okay, cool.
bottled water. I got my bottle right here, ready to go. Not
Uh,
really a soda person, so if I'm gonna get sweets, it's usually gonna be chocolate. Sorry if that's a future question. I spoiled it.
maybe we'll see. Your favorite video game?
It's got to be Terraria.
I don't know this one.
Terraria, I've put like countless hours into that game.
Okay.
It's just so satisfying. The building and the exploring and the collecting, and it's just great. It's a great game.
And finally, favorite food? So maybe it's chocolate.
Probably not chocolate because I would die if I only ate chocolate. But I could eat fish tacos for every meal every day.
Okay.
And the great thing about fish tacos is every restaurant makes it different. Sometimes they're fried, sometimes they're blackened or grilled, and different toppings. It's just always a fun surprise whenever I order a fish taco. So I love fish tacos.
Okay, let's go for fish tacos. Okay, so so before we dive into your current job and position, I'd like to have an insight on your path as a professional artist, but maybe also what you did before being an artist.
Mhm.
So can you tell us a bit about your artistry?
Okay, so I've been drawing ever since I was a little kid. My parents saw me with a little picture of like helicopters and tanks when I was 6, and they're like, "Oh, who drew this for you?" And I'm like, "No, I drew it, mommy." And they're like, "No," they didn't believe me. They thought one of my brothers did it. And so I went and showed them, and sure enough, I could draw at a very young age. And they always said I was amazing. But the funny thing about it is, I wasn't actually that good compared to other artists, but I didn't figure that out until college. So I was maybe doing like one drawing a week, which is a ton for a high schooler, right? But what I didn't realize when I got to college was that all of my peers had been doing like multiple drawings a day, like filling up sketchbooks. Like they loved to draw, they were obsessed with drawing. And so I was far behind them. I wasn't nearly as good, and I was just terrible. So I didn't even apply to the art program uh, when I at my school when I uh, first was a freshman. I had to wait another year before even applying, and then I got in somewhere in the middle. I got into the BYU animation program. That's Brigham Young University in Utah. And so I got into the animation program there, and then I started flunking out of school. I had kind of a winding road, like delayed to get in. It took me, I always joke that it took me 7 years to get a 4-year degree. Um, I was like struggling. I was playing a certain popular online, massively multiplayer game and getting very distracted and wasn't focused on my studies. Didn't really have good work ethic, really struggled. And I hit a point where I was like, oh, I'm throwing away my dream job, my dream career because I am playing video games. Like something's wrong here. And so I made the decision to get really serious about it, and I threw out all my games and all of my gaming systems. I don't think I threw them out. I think I like sold them or like left them at my parents' house. I got them out of my life, right? Um, Gave away my password to that MMO so I couldn't log into my character. I think I even deleted my characters. I was like all in. I was like,
Yeah,
I am
yeah, I
not going back to
definitely can
this.
relate.
And so I went off of games for like 3 years. And during that time, I got a handful of jobs at little studios. I got my first like stable job at like a stable studio before I even graduated. I did 2 senior films. I had all kinds of time. I was like so productive. I was off the charts and really turned a corner. And that's when my life started coming together. You know, we bought a house right out of school. So I graduated in 2011 and we bought a house near my work. And we had the perfect suburban lifestyle, you know, working nine to
Cool.
five and coming home to this nice little home. And I was super bored super quick. I was like, oh shoot, I've sort of arrived at the dream. I do animation during the day and I mow my lawn on the weekends. And what else is there? And so I kept doing freelance work on the side. And while I really enjoyed my job, it was great. I had been there for 3.5 years. And at some point, doing the same thing over and over for me, I needed a change. And so I was doing all this freelance work, trying to keep my skills sharp in my off time, just still keeping that momentum from school. And eventually, a couple of years after graduating, I applied to Riot Games and they were interested. And so I went there, and that was where I think my skill set took on a whole new
Yeah.
aspect of 3D effects as opposed to just 2D effects before then.
Okay.
And now I teach both. And so now that's my whole focus is both teaching and creating 2D and 3D effects for games.
Okay, great. I was going to ask you before going to Riot, you did a couple of very interesting and popular things like working on Alight and Dreamgiver. I
Mhm.
think those two shorts. I'd like to know if there were any influential people or maybe something in your life that pushed you to embrace like CG and VFX?
Well, it's been a really winding road. So when I was a kid, I didn't even know that like an animator was a job. Like it didn't click for me that the Saturday morning cartoons and the video games I was playing were made by people. They seemed larger than life. They seemed
Mm.
like just these things that these magical companies produced and they showed up on our living room counter, like and we could play them. And, I did somehow realize, I think someone must have mentioned it to me that somebody did the Saturday morning or the Sunday morning cartoons and the comics in the newspaper. And I was like, oh, I could be a comic artist. That's like a job. When I grow up, I could do that. I want to be a comic artist. And so, I would sort of make these casts of characters and design them and draw them. But animation, I don't even think I realized until maybe like in high school, it started to dawn on me that I was like, maybe I could be an animator. And I didn't really have a mentor. I mean, my art teacher in high school, he was like into traditional painting and doing his own thing. I took every art class that was offered. They didn't really have any computer or digital art classes like they do these days in high school. Um, so I was just like took all this art. I didn't pass the AP art exam. So I did quite well in the advanced placement art for like all the college level classes in high school, except in the art one I failed. So I didn't get any college credit for my art class because the kind of art I was interested in was like cartoon characters, and it wasn't like, you have an oil painting of like a dragon
Okay.
or like, fuzzy characters with big googly eyeballs. And, I mean, the highbrow sort of fine art community isn't really interested in that. And it wasn't very
Yeah.
creative in their mind, even though in my mind it was all I wanted to do. And so then when I finally like caught wind of, BYU's animation program, I was like, oh, I want to do that. Because like it's cartoon characters, like I don't care about fine art. I don't care about gallery art. I mean, we have it up in our house because it's fun to look at, but I wasn't passionate about making it. Um, but then that's when I started getting the real mentorship was in college. People like Ryan Woodward, you
Okay.
know, and Cynthia Hogan, who had worked on, a lot of the films with Glenn Keane. She was his understudy at Disney. And so, Ryan Woodward having studied with Michel Gagne. And so I had like these sort of animation giants
Yeah.
as mentors. And Ryan was the one who introduced me to effects because I had been so interested in, um, Flash animation and 2D stuff. And none of the other students were doing that. They were all pursuing 3D and trying to go for the big film studios. And I was over here, I was like, I love these like 2D characters and all this stuff. And Ryan needed somebody to help him on a project with some in-betweens. And he's like, hey, Jason, you know how to do Flash. You want to do some in-betweens? And I was like, heck yeah, I'd take anything. And as I was in-betweening his effects work, that's when I really stumbled onto something that I was super passionate about, just making these beautiful sweeping shapes move in that way. And so that was a big moment for me. And from ever since then, I ditched the character stuff. I still do it as a hobby. It's fun for me sometimes. And I did do it at a few of my earlier jobs, but now I'm pretty much all in on the effects side of
Okay.
stuff.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I guess having Ryan Woodward as a mentor must have been quite of a ride and some very lucky star upon your shoulder for sure.
yeah, well,
Oh,
Ryan's been amazing. And then we got to work again together at Riot because he came to
yeah.
Riot shortly after I got there. and then we were on the same team together for a while, and then after that, we were like neighbors. We get to hang out. Like, it's funny switching from him being a mentor to now he's like a mentor and a friend, like a colleague in a way. I wouldn't put my work on the level of Ryan's by any means, but definitely we have our different strengths. Like, I'm focused more in the education world now and like, running a small business, and Ryan's off doing Ryan things always.
Yeah,
He's very entrepreneurial as well, but I think he's more of a pure artist than I
yeah,
am. Like,
yeah.
I love art. I love making art, obviously, but I also love like managing teams and doing art direction and all the things that are involved with building course content with multiple instructors. That's kind of what I've gravitated more towards. Whereas, like, Ryan's the kind of guy, if you ever get to work with him, it's just, oh my gosh, he's incredible. I have nothing but good things to say about him. Because just the way he thinks and the way he's like in it, his work just flows from him because he's such a creative well of energy. So
Was this the time where you work on Alight and on Dreamgiver? I've seen that you work on some of the FX, made a bit. Maybe I'm saying something wrong, but a
no,
bit of
no,
directing on those also.
those were student projects. Yeah. So Alight, I'd started developing when I was a junior in college. And, that was when I had caught the fire from Ryan and all this other stuff. I'm like, effects is it for me. Drop everything else. I just want to do a whole film about effects. And so I did that shot where the castle comes shooting up out of the ground, and the two characters, Sparker and Aquana, are sort of like disoriented. And then, he sends her running away. I animated that whole shot beginning to end as like a proof of concept, a proof of style concept. Before that, I had done the storyboards myself for the whole thing
Okay.
and the pacing and matching it to some temporary music and so forth. But that one shot was an interesting experience because, I got it all done and comped and everything and done and ready. And then I uploaded it to the beautiful internet. And somehow a studio, now called Wildworks, at the time it was called Smart Bomb Interactive, that was just an hour away. It was up in Salt Lake City. They caught wind of this and they saw the shot and they're like, we need that. We need an effects artist who can do this. And I had a couple other like sketches of fire and things in my portfolio at the time, all based on this film. And they're like, will you come work here? We need someone to like define the effect style for our game. And I was like, I'm a junior, like I'm not graduated yet. What are you talking about? I've never worked on something like that before. And I was like, sure, this sounds amazing. And so from that point on, I was working there part-time while finishing school full-time. And also from that shot, Tyler Carter, who had been directing Dreamgiver, was like, we need effects like that in our dream sequences in our student film. And so he was actually like, he needed someone right away, a student right away to come and help. And so I actually paused production on Alight to help him out. Maybe I was a sophomore. Yeah, I think I was a sophomore because junior year ended up being Dreamgiver. Yeah, like we went into production on Dreamgiver, and then senior year was Alight. So, and Dreamgiver kind of bled over into senior year too. So Alight was compressed at the second half of my senior year. So here I was working part-time, doing two student films and finishing my coursework throughout my junior. I was working my butt off. Um, and I was newly married too. So we got married while we were in school. And so, I had all that going, and it was a crazy time, but it's funny how the demand for what I was doing was obviously so high. I was like, there's no way that I'm going back to character work. And then also during that time around when Dreamgiver was wrapping up and Alight was starting, by then I had some professional work to show from the job that I was working and the work from the two films. And Disney was interested. So through
Okay.
Michel Gagne, who I met through Ryan Woodward, he's like, you need to go talk to the guys at Disney. So then he gave me their email addresses. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, you got cool stuff. If you're ever in town, like swing on by the studio, we'll grab lunch." And I'm like, "Funny thing, I'm gonna be in Los Angeles like in 2 weeks." So I booked everything. I was like, "Okay, actually, no, that's right. I stayed with family." I was like, I called up a like distant cousin I knew in California. I was like, "Hey, can I come crash at your place for a little bit? I'm gonna be interviewing at Disney." And so it was kind of this informal lunch interview thing, but they're like, yeah, we're like working on some stuff. We'd love to have you come work on it. But then that project got canceled,
Shut down, yeah.
unfortunately. So the job fell through and I didn't get it. But I got to brush shoulders with some giants, some guys down there at Disney, just incredible talent, still there today. But uh, yeah, they didn't need my 2D skills, but they're like, maybe if you learn Houdini, maybe if you learn some 3D skills, we could take you. And I was like, sure, what's Houdini? I'll learn that. And then I was like, oh, I can't. I like beat my head against it for like a month. And I think it's great that I did that because it prepared me for later on the introduction to 3D with games. But it's just kind of funny how I leaped to Houdini, which for me was way more challenging. And then when I got to dabble in Unity Engine and Unreal Engine, I was like, oh, this is like way simpler,
Yeah.
way easier than Houdini. I can do this. This is great. And so that was like opening the door for me to go work at Riot later. But it's just funny how everything kind of fell into place because I just followed the demand. Like it was clear that people wanted these skills, and so I was like, sure, I love doing this. I'll develop it, and it's just become a great, exciting journey for me. So yeah, did that answer the question?
Yeah,
Alight and dream for
I think
yeah.
so. I think so. No, but that's great because it shows how your career can be made of opportunities, and even if you can't really catch them, then as you explained, it makes you comfortable with Unity and Unreal Engine when you first open them, and you were like, okay, I more or less know how it works,
Right.
and I feel like a lot of junior people when they are looking for their first job might be super afraid of their technical skills level, but those are the kind of thing you can build pretty quickly, and people will reach you mainly for your portfolio, for the work you have already done, and your talent and stuff like that that
Well,
you
absolutely. I mean, I was so afraid as a student. I was in that boat. I was afraid to learn the technical side of things, and it is pretty daunting. I mean, especially if you crack open Houdini. But this has been sort of the mission statement of VFX Apprentice is we want to make it easy because it's been a nightmare for most of us trying to just teach ourselves in a world that's very like high expectations because we see all the beautiful stuff that's out there that the pros are doing and we think, well, where do I start? And they're like, well, you need to start by knowing this, and this, and this. And I'm like, hang on, that's not a starting point. That's like 10 starting points. And so we're trying to give students a very cohesive, clear way to learn this very complex, mysterious craft, right? And that's sort of the mission statement in a nutshell. And we're always adding more stuff to try and flesh that out. We're always learning from our students. We get feedback on, hey, I'm still lost. And I'm like, great. Where are you lost? Please tell me so that I can fix it. Because it's been 13 years since I started, right? Like, I like staying in touch with the beginner because I'm not a beginner anymore, but I used to be. And it reminds me of what it was like when I'm talking directly with students. And so, yeah, that's something like for anyone who's listening who's like really unsure of the complexity of all this, like there are so many resources today than there were when I was getting started. And if I can get to where I am today, you definitely can too. Like seriously, I was so afraid. I skipped my 3D classes. So I took intro to 3D and then I skipped all of the intermediate and advanced 3D stuff because I just was so repelled by it. I was like, I just want to draw and animate in 2D, 2D, 2D. And later on, I think my eyes were open to, Well, it doesn't have to be terrible. Like, yeah, learning it is a challenge, but once you know it, it's actually quite fun. It's actually
Mm,
quite easy and enjoyable. It's just that initial learning curve.
yeah,
And that's the part that we're trying to solve with our company is like get people over that hump. And you as well, like you do a great job with your tutorial content as
thank
well.
you.
It's like Blender is an insanely complex program and helping people just ease into it. Like, here's the thing, it's not so bad. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, and we all need to start somewhere, and I mean, yeah, we'll talk a little more about this in a few minutes. I'd just like to
Right.
know a little more about your work at Riot Games. I do believe, and I do feel like you are a very influential VFX artist, at least for our generation. You have given a lot of talk at the GDC, and the style of visual effects of League of Legends is kind of, I mean, we do try to do the same kind of VFX, and it has inspired a lot of people. Our VFX artist is is like praying to you every morning,
Oh,
and yes.
jeez. Don't do that.
No, I'm kidding, but how did you get to Riot Games, and what you did there?
Like I said, I was working at Smart Bomb Interactive at the time and just applying around. I love my job. I love what I was doing there. Those are great people, and I'd love to work with them again someday. But also was getting a little bored. It was a little repetitive for me. And I was like, I need something. I need something. And a friend of mine had been playing League of Legends. And I, like I said, was not playing any video games. I was completely on a break from games and enjoying all the productivity that came from that. But he had been playing a lot of League and he talked about how great it was. And I was like, cool, yeah, okay. Riot Games. And I was on LinkedIn and they must have been doing that thing where they listen on the phone because, the job opening for Riot Games was for a Flash animator. And I was like, hey, I'm a Flash animator. And so I applied and sent them all of my 2D work, right? All of the like character and effects work, just everything I had ever done in Flash. And they're like, they got back to me and they're like, actually, that's the wrong job description. Like, we don't have a Flash animator position, but would you want to be a VFX artist? And I was like, sure. What's the difference? I was like, I don't know what. I mean, I'm interested. Let's talk. And so the effects lead at the time was Christina One, and she's amazing. She was my first manager at Riot, and she saw in me this skill set that they currently didn't have on their team with doing all the 2D effects. And she's like, look, we are upgrading our effects style across the game. We've brought over some people from other studios to come and help us with that. And because League of Legends, when it first launched, was not at all what it looks like today, right? And so every part of the art department had been overhauling the game's visual style. And she's like, something that we need as a part of this overhaul is 2D effects sensibilities. And so we'd bring you on as sort of this 2D effects expert, and then we could teach you 3D effects along the way. And so when I started at Riot, I was completely unqualified to do 3D effects. I was terrible. I did an art test for them that was absolute garbage. I don't know if I'll be able to find that and bring it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
I should share that
We
with you.
do need to show this to the world.
Okay, you should see my Riot Games art test. But the 2D effects version of that same art test was pretty good. It was decent. It wasn't the best work I've ever done, but it showed promise. And so yeah, it's kind of funny looking back on that now because it's like, oh, it was so bad, but it's great to reflect on it. Um, so they saw the potential, particularly Christina saw the potential. I later learned that the rest of the hiring panel was super doubtful. They're like, I don't think this guy's very good at making effects. And Christina's like, no, no, he'll get there. Trust me. And she like put her neck out for me, which I'll forever be grateful for her that she did. Nowadays, they would not have hired me, not a chance, because now they have that skill set and they have that proficiency and they don't need to take a risk like that. They took a real chance on me. But I got in before the bar was raised. And so from there, I just took off. I just was like a sponge. In my first year, I switched from the title of VFX concept artist into just VFX artist, and then got promoted to senior artist not too long after, and just really, really took to it like a fish in water because it's such a great learning environment over there at Riot, with like everyone being very encouraging and letting you give feedback and get feedback constantly. And they really invest heavily in their artists there. And so I was enjoying that so much. And so soon I was like, I got to share this because I wish I had had this when I was learning. And I love the teaching and learning style that's here. And so I just basically took all of that. And I, by no means was I the best effects artist at Riot. Like I never was, but I was always one to be a big proponent for education and getting the information out there. And so, I have some of the projects that I worked on behind me, and then some, it's like a blend of like stuff that I like, student projects, stuff that I've done. And I had a chance to work on some of my very favorite things, which would be like, you know, uh, Star Guardian Lux and Pool Party Lulu and Project Leona and, like Talia and Camille and just all these really cool projects. But I did it on the shoulders of giants. Like everyone around me really, really supported me in my growth. And then that was really what I was trying to do in the early days of my YouTube channel, was to pass all of that knowledge forward. And basically it ended up being a huge win-win because, you know, started with some of the stuff I was doing, and then pretty soon other Riot VFX artists were on the forums as well because they're like, this is really cool. I didn't know that we could do this, that Riot would let us do this, because a lot of studios are very careful about their secrets. They keep it really close. But, it ended up benefiting Riot big time because now they're viewed as sort of this VFX mecca, this place to go to learn VFX, which I think is absolutely warranted. And and then from there also, by the way, I got to interject here, like other studios are also fantastic places to learn VFX. I just think they haven't maybe been quite as open with their knowledge sharing, which has led to just people not knowing. Like they just don't know all the cool stuff other than the final product that's coming out. But now you do see more and more breakdowns happening, and they're starting to lift the curtain a little bit. And it's not up to the artists that work at those studios. It's definitely up to the leadership and how they want to manage their privacy and so forth. But yeah, so that led to those things. I got to work closely with Jin Yang. Jin he will always be my effects mentor.
Cool.
He's the one who led the charge on the Riot Style Guide for VFX. So that whole document that was put together was done by him. Different people on the team contributed in small ways, but Jin was really the point person. And he would never promote himself in that way. He doesn't even have, I don't even think he has a demo reel posted online, but he was like just an absolute cornerstone of the VFX team there at Riot, and still is today. He's a principal VFX artist helping out in a variety of capacities. So yeah, I love Jin. He and I, he's also like a diamond level League of Legends player. He's from Korea. He's like this tall Korean guy. He's like super quiet and austere and very intimidating, but also a big softie. We love Jin. So he's a great human.
That's fantastic. And when have you created VFX Apprentice?
Yeah, so I tried a few things with the YouTube channel first and was getting a lot of great feedback there. And then it was in 2019. I think it was, in 2019 we launched the Booms and Blasts course in the fall, and saw just an overwhelming response there. Tons of people flocking into that class. And that was really encouraging and exciting. And by spring of the following year, last year, so around this time last year, I was seeing enough interest and revenue coming in through that operation that I was able to say, I can quit. I can quit my job and do this full time. And so from there, I quit around, I think it was April, the end of April, if I remember correctly. And then we launched the 2D effects class around the holiday season. And now we're just looking at maintaining that, upgrading, looking to the next steps right now. There's no big announcements, but there's a ton in the works. I am so on fire with this, and it's so much fun to see just how quickly it's grown in a year and a half. And I'm just like blown away by the response. And I'm like, I need to move on this because people want it, people need it.
Mm.
And I'm working with other instructors now and getting them, showcased front and center. We're transitioning the company so that it's no longer going to be my face as the brand of the company, but basically just more of an educational institution. And you're going to see more as we roll things out. It's amazing to think that like I'm hiring people to work on these challenges like full time, people that are actually good at marketing and branding and product development and all these things. And it's like it's kind of just amazing to see what has come of it. That from little old me on my YouTube channel to a full organization that fosters the education of the next generation.
Yeah,
So it's been
there is
cool.
definitely a huge demand on VFX, and it's still a bit an obscure part of game development. You can find content on internet, but not to a professional level. And I think your course is one of the only that is available online to a professional level. And I've seen that you have some, and you just told us that you have some other artists and mentors that are getting involved into VFX Apprentice. Can you name a few and tell us a bit about them?
Yeah, well, we've got Alex Redfish, who teaches a few lessons in there. Um, we've got David Shovlin, we've got Chris Graff, and Dan Elder. Those two are effects supervisors in television that I've been following for a very long time. They're super amazing. The lessons with Alex are recorded time lapses of his work with myself narrating those lessons. I'm always talking to Alex. I'm like, hey, you want to do more with us? Because he's amazing and I really admire his work. It was really, we've known each other for so long and just like circling around and then happened to be at Riot Games for an overlap period of time as well. And so he's great. We've got Matthew DeSanctis, who does some fantastic work in After Effects. They're all listed on our instructors page on the site. I'm gonna miss some, but there's like so many. There's Lush, who does amazing work as well, who works at Tuatara, and so just like a lot of great folks on there.
Yeah,
Really.
that's cool. Can you give us just some details about the content of the VFX Apprentice package? I know there are different, package, but
Yeah.
it seems that we can get like half an hour or an hour of review. And it seems that you are planning to also do one-on-one mentorship. Am I correct about this? Or maybe class mentorship?
Yeah, so I had to give up on the one-on-one model just because we've scaled so much. We've got over 700 people who have signed up for the
Okay.
classes. And so with that kind of student body, I've turned to my teacher's assistants to make sure that they're always on the Discord channel. We have a private Discord channel. They're always getting feedback. These are people that I've vetted thoroughly and I really trust what they're going to say. And then right now, I'm showing up every week on a Wednesday, and there's usually about 15 to 20 people in a room together. So if people need to like get their work critiqued or reviewed, they can throw it onto the live chat and I'll screen share and we'll just kind of all go over it together. So we end up getting to a lot more people that way as opposed to me spending my time one-on-one. I still do one-on-one sessions with things like the winners of the competition. So we do like a
Mhm.
monthly student competition. And so I'll be meeting with those winners like once a month. I love doing that. I just want to clarify, I'm not stepping away because I want to. I'm stepping away because I have big goals for the business on what it's going to be able to accomplish. And we are looking into more mentorship because I know that's like really needed to sort of guide a specific journey of a student. The recorded content is what you're primarily getting with the purchase, right? Like we have I would say like 5 bodies of content between the 2 primary courses. There's Masters of Motion, which is essentially many master classes in 2D effects. You're essentially watching firsthand how all these professional artists, myself included, and many others, make an effect from scratch and what their thoughts are behind it and how they approach that specific challenge. So you're looking at like, fire, water, explosions, magic, waves, all these things, right? And then you're looking at the post-process pizzazz content, which is all focused around After Effects and creating that nicely rendered feel to a flat object, whether it's moving or stationary. This is extremely useful for mock-ups. It's also useful for flipbooks that you want to feel a little more rendered, a little more fleshed out. And it has some tie-ins as well with games. And then there's Game Dev Deep Dive, which is how to take 2D effects and put them into a 3D engine. This is the really awesome part where we have, fully functioning game assets that are simulating what you would do at a studio. So this is more of a premium part of the package where, if you were to go pay somebody to make these game assets, a full character rig, a full environment, and all that, it would be very pricey. And so it comes at like a very reasonable cost there. And then over in the Booms and Blasts portion, we have concept painting. So learn how to paint your own effects and design them and render them. And then we have particle animation, where you're actually creating all aspects of it in Unreal Engine and in Unity Engine. And so, yeah, all that together is a pretty broad swath, but it all has the common theme of artistic foundations and creating work that's beautiful, that's going to catch the eyes of your dream job, of the place that you want to go work at.
So I'd like to ask you if you have any advices for wannabe VFX artists beside taking a siege to the VFX apprentice, but maybe something to look at or something they need to focus on in their training, or any advice that for you would be good or you wish you had when you were starting?
Well, I get this question a lot, and I love this question. I think it's going to be a blend of um, shameless self-promotion, because on my YouTube channel, which is totally free, you can just go and see some of the like artistic principles videos. There's a so you want to make games series by Riot Games, and number 7 in that series is all about VFX. I highly encourage you to watch that. But other than just watching those videos, which is going to give you sort of an overview level of what it is that you're going to be learning and what you need to know, I would recommend just don't be like too don't be too critical on yourself, because I'm still learning a ton in the industry. And I think the key there is, with not being critical, is that you just do the next thing that you should do, that you know how to do. And yeah, you're probably going to learn the wrong software or the wrong way to do it or the wrong habit or the wrong whatever. But in the grand scheme of things, you're going to be so grateful for all those quote unquote wrong steps, because they all add to your library of knowledge and understanding, until eventually that's going to fill up to the point where you know all the right ways to do stuff. But you never get to the end in the first step. Every time we start out at something new, we're terrible at it. And I think in our society, we like to have it now, and we forget that like it's okay to be terrible at something as an adult. Like, I think maybe for kids, it's like, oh, that's cute. You drew a person and it looks like a terrible drawing of a person, but oh, that's so cute. Maybe if you keep doing it, you'll be a great artist someday. You know, we see all this potential in a child.
Yeah.
But when a grown up does a terrible drawing, we're like, why are you drawing? You stink at it. You should let artists do the drawing or whatever. And I think that's dumb. I think that's just wrong. And it's not at all correct that society views it that way. So you need to be willing to say, I'm going to just be bad at this for a while. And I'm okay with that because if I keep doing it, I'm going to get good at it. And I think that mentality, however you get there, is the key. And so my advice would just be do the thing that you're bad at, do the thing that you're afraid of other people seeing how bad you are at it. Because if you just keep doing that, then eventually everyone's going to look at you and say, whoa, like you're so talented. You're such a wizard. I could never do that. And you'll think to yourself, like, but I wasn't. Like, this didn't just happen. Like, it took practice. That's the big secret. It's the great equalizer is practice.
Mm.
Like, anyone will tell you if they're really good at what they do, it's because they've been practicing it for a long time, for a lot of hours. And I don't think we acknowledge that in society for some weird reason. We just assume there's the talented people and the untalented people. And the ones who aren't talented just weren't lucky. Too bad. And like, that's not that's not at all the case. I watched so many naturally talented people in school fall off hard because they thought it would just happen for them.
Mm.
And then they didn't get jobs. They didn't go anywhere with it, even though they were naturally quite gifted. While some of the less talented people, like myself, did quite well and excelled because we just worked our butt off. And that's that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Uh, that's perfect. I totally agree.
Yeah. See, there you go.
100%.
Another
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of
yeah.
these.
I mean, and this is whenever I get an interview, this is always the same thing, and I think it's maybe um, linked to any art form that people see it like it's artists are talented, and while if you see it with a professional eye, where you have level of experience, a young artist or a wannabe artist is not already an artist or a professional artist, and through work, because it's just about working, training, etc., you get better at it, and it might be more natural for people to think that a professional math teacher is better than a youngster learning math, but for art it's kind of biased at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe because we don't see it as being something you do professionally, how he's doing drawings and stuff. But I feel like it's kind of changing those last year, like, and I feel like when you talked about the fact that Riot Games kind of opened a bit the gates on how things are made and share a bit um, the making of everything, and share their work. It also helps people understanding that this is currently a job, and it just requires a lot of work. It's not only about talent, or not just about talent. It's really a professional process,
Well,
and
and
you
I'm
can
trying to
teach this.
yeah, like it can be taught, absolutely. And I'm trying to bust those gates even further open because, like, in a few of the lessons that we do in the traditional 2D effects class, like, I did some bad takes. Like, I usually throw out my first iteration on something, but I was recording myself doing terrible work, right? Like, I'm trying to animate and I'm kind of not warmed up. It had been a while since I had done 2D animation and it just wasn't very good. And I'm doing it and I feel so dumb. I mean, here I am, like, 13, however many years I've been doing this, I can't even remember now. And I'm doing a terrible animation. Like, it was really bad.
Mm.
And I was like, I gotta just pause this video. I can't go on like this. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna talk about this. I'm gonna keep this video and I'm gonna add it to the lesson, and it's gonna be a part of what students watch. So I finished it out, and then I did my other recordings, and it turned out better because I was warmed up and
Mm.
feeling more creative. And then when I went back and did narration, I was like, okay, everybody, this is what happens when you're messing up, and it's okay. Like, here I am messing up. You watch my whole process of me doing it wrong, and here's why it's wrong, and here's where I screwed up, and maybe you can learn from this. And I try to be as real as I can with my students, because there's an enormous amount of pressure on all of us,
Mm.
especially in these uncertain times. It's like, can I get this job? I really dream of this, but I don't know. And so many other people are so much better than me at it. Like, we don't need to add on top of that being critical on ourselves. Like, give yourself some room to make bad drawings, to do bad art, to do it wrong, right? Because you start finding, after like just embracing that demon enough times, that the demon isn't real, that it's just a boogeyman. Like, that's just a part of learning, and it's all good. It's
Mm.
all right. There is no wrong way to make animation, because it's always just a step forward. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And you won't get fired because you did a bad ethics. You will if you don't admit it and go ahead and do it again. And so being honest with yourself, but you don't need to kind of pull you down. If you fail, you fail. And I do feel that with our interns or younger artists in the team, that they when they kind of fail or are not happy with what they have done, they are very not getting emotional, but like, oh no, I'm so bad, etc. I'm not. No, we don't care. Now we know that this
yeah,
shape or this rhythm doesn't work. Let's try something else. Or that you can't do this properly, so let's try something else. So that's part of the also the learning process, I guess. And a
yep,
lot of artists say embrace failure, and that's,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's true. That it's frustrating, even I guess for you, whenever you do something that you're good at, but you can't do it because you haven't wound up, or because you're in a bad day, or you haven't, I don't know. So it's super frustrating, but yeah, with experience, that okay, I will start from scratch and I will redo it, and it's gonna be better. And you have to keep this mindset, I guess. So
this is
that's
a whole, yeah, this is a whole philosophical journey. I love what you're saying about embracing failure. They call it shadow work, like
mm,
basically looking at the parts of you that you're not pleased with or happy with, and learning to accept it and learning to embrace it. You find that as you give the demon a big old hug, that it wasn't really a demon at all, it was just a part of you.
yeah.
And, the demons that we face in life internally can be reconciled. It takes good friends and good support and people who understand. I'm always on the phone calling people up, freaking out about whatever. I've definitely struggled in my own head with this thing too, like those
Yeah.
interns that you mentioned. Like, I'm like, what's wrong with me that I can't create this, that I can't be creative right now, that I can't solve this problem? They're going to find out, and then they're going to fire me. Like, I get so afraid and caught in my own head. And I think the only way I've been able to overcome that is just by repeatedly coming back to that demon's doorstep, knocking on the door, and being like, I want a hug. Like, can we get to know each other a little better? Like, it's this weird image that I have of like facing my shadow, but
Mm,
every time the door opens, it's just me on the other side. It's not a demon, it's not something scary, but the scary part is not knowing of like what's going to happen when I fail? What's going to happen when this door opens and I face it again? Can I survive it again? And these are very real things that we all deal with as artists. We put ourselves out there in our art. And if people don't like it, that means maybe they don't like us, because I'm in that artwork and now
mm,
they're
yeah.
judging it, so they're judging me.
Yeah.
But that's not true. That's not, like, you can put yourself out there and be vulnerable, and it just leads to growth instead of pain. And so I think It
Yeah,
just takes
yeah,
practice, lots
yeah,
of
yeah.
practice and encouragement. I always try to encourage my students. I was always the guy on the interview panel that was like, this person can get there. They're great. And then, like, others were much more harsh. And you need that balance of both.
Yeah.
Like the harsh person that's like, they're not up to par with what we need. And I'm like, but they'll get there. They'll be great. And so that's kind of my personality. And I lean into that. I'm definitely harder on myself than I am on any student, but I'm working on that. I'm trying to be more compassionate there as well.
Yeah, I think you can pull a lot of people if you're not being kind for being kind, but if you see a little potential, find the right words to critique. And as a youngster, you need to learn to receive the critique. And as you told, it's not personal; it's about your work. And in a professional
Exactly.
context, or whenever you are looking for a job, they are not criticizing you, but currently your work. And we put a lot of energy in our art for sure, but with experience you kind of learn to not get too attached, and it makes you more also flexible. And
Yeah.
I think you evolve more and more the faster you are able to say, okay, that's not good, I do something else, and not trying to improve something that is basically not good and spend a lot of time on it. So one of the last questions, and it's from our VFX artist. I asked him, "You have one question to ask. What is
Oh, I'll
it?"
try to make the
So
answer
that's
good.
gonna be the
That's a lot of
what?
pressure on me.
Are you ready? Are you ready for this? What
Yes.
makes a good VFX? Bam.
Oh,
Okay.
dang it. Dang it. I get asked this one in a lot of different ways. Students will say, "Is this good?" And I have to say, well, it depends on the goal. It depends on who it's for, what it's for, what your audience is, what it's supposed to do inside of the film or game that it's functioning inside of. So I think what makes it good is, does it achieve the criteria that you set for it? So, and I know that sounds like a cop-out answer, but here's what I mean. Um, an effect is bound to fail if you didn't develop good ways to measure it before you started creating it. So you need good pillars. Like, is it supposed to be playful? Is it supposed to be epic? Is it supposed to be um, punchy? Is it supposed to be friendly? Or is it supposed to be, um,
Aggressive or
yeah, aggressive? Is it supposed to fit well in the environment and, kind of like blend in or enhance the environment in some way? Or is it supposed to stand out from the environment and really punch you in the face? Um, so many times effects fail because they're just sort of glowing amorphous forms. Like, it's just a blob growing and shrinking, or growing and spitting out other blobs and they fly out. If it's not well directed, it's going to be a bad effect every time. But if it is well directed, then it may be a bad effect, but you know how to improve it. It's because the goals are clear. It's like, well, this needs to basically feel very powerful. This is more of an ultimate level ability that only happens once or twice every half hour or something. Okay, cool. Well, this is a very big moment then that we need to very much have a big payoff. And so that guides you through how to do it. And then, as you're adding things to it, it's like, well, that doesn't fit with the fire that we have, because the fire that we have is bubbly and charming. It's very like friendly and stuff. And the fire that you put in here is aggressive and sharp. And so, that's another reason why it might start failing. But all of this is assuming that you, before you started on a good foundation of guidance and principles and direction. So I think a good effect is a well-directed effect.
okay, cool. And one last question. Do you have any advices to create a good demo reel? What are you looking into a demo reel? Would you do like 2 fantastic VFX or maybe 10 medium VFX?
Yeah, so this one also depends on the studio. I hate to do so many cop-outs, but VFX is such a big, complex topic that I've learned that every answer has to be nuanced.
Mm.
So what I would say to anyone who's like, how do I do my demo reel? Um, look at the studio that you're applying to and look at the kind of stuff, look at the game you're applying to within that studio, because different games have different goals and different styles within the same studio. And say, okay, I want my demo reel to fit with that game. So I need to match the style and the quality and the use case of that game. So same camera, same type of shaders, same type of shape language and motion and colors. And if you can, like same like color balancing of a background so that at least if you're doing a gray background or something, at least it kind of is similar to a scene or a setup that would happen in that game. If you can get assets from that game and mock up an environment, that's even better because then it's like fan art, and studios love fan art. They love that you made something for them without working there. That's kind of how that feels. And just that becomes a lot easier to measure it against the quality of what you're trying to do at the studio. Um, so I would say match it to your audience. Now, that's the type of content. You asked about quality and quantity. So I've talked with a lot of different senior and lead VFX artists. They have a lot of different opinions on this. This really comes down to the individual things. Typically, we don't want to see a lot of mediocre. You have to consider that in the demo reel review, yours is going to be included with others because they have an open position, they had multiple applicants. So probably if it's like a popular studio, they're going to have like 20 demo reels that they have to get through in 1 hour. And so that's barely enough time to look at a portion of each reel and then have a brief discussion about that candidate before moving on to the next one. So if you're towards the beginning of that meeting, they might watch your whole demo reel, maybe. But if you're at the end of that lineup of reels, they're probably only going to watch the first few seconds and judge, is this worth continuing or not? Because kind of the temperature of the room is, yeah, okay, this is chill. Like, let's check out some reels. This will be fun. And then, they're warming up socially in that room and they're warming up to like what's happening on the screen. And it's like, okay, yeah, well, maybe, and no one wants to be the first one to say next, like skip this trash. But by the end of the meeting, everyone's
Yeah.
very comfortable and familiar with saying next, we don't care, skip ahead. And so if you have to assume that your reel will be at the end of the meeting, and that if the first couple of effects in your reel are not awesome, it will be skipped over and you will not be
Okay.
accepted. So that's what I saw happen, but I don't know. I mean, other studios might be different, but I would imagine not too different. So yeah, put
Yeah.
good stuff in the front of your reel for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's important.
I do feel like when I'm mostly recruiting or trying to recruit animators, and I feel like if I see like 2 or 3 animations that kind of fit the requirement, um, if the guy will match or not, and then you will teach him the bits that are specific to your game or your technique or stuff like that, and then there are the people. But yeah, I guess that a strong 30-second demo reel where you showcase both artistical and technical skills can can do the job than a 2 or 3 minutes demo reel, unless you are already very well known and you just put a recollection of everything you've done. I guess for young artists, it's better to focus on like 3 different kind of VFX and or animation in my case, and really push them to a professional level. And as you told, specifically for the game or the audience you are looking for. And I mean, I get this feedback from every artist I'm interviewing. They always say you have to know what kind of job you are applying to or what studio you are applying to, because you have to be passionate about what they do. And as an artist, it's the first driving force, to be passionate about everything. So
Yeah, it makes a
that's cool.
huge difference where you're applying,
Yeah.
how you should tailor that.
Yeah. So I just have a few questions before we close the
Hmm.
interview, just about your habits, just as a human being. So just want to know what is your daily routine, and how do you manage your professional and personal life? How do you manage to deal with changing home, leading a company, a growing company? Do you have a routine or?
Well, I always try to do my most creative work early in the day, and I don't always get to, um, because, I need to like meet with people and the schedule fill up and it's important, and so I have to schedule meetings in the morning. I typically, if I can block out the morning, I typically try to do anything creative then, whether it's like a lesson that I'm doing or designing curriculum or that kind of thing. Then I save afternoons for meetings, emails, that kind of stuff. I'm not enormously disciplined. I don't think of myself as like strictly by the book, but what's funny about that is if I look at it objectively, I'm definitely more disciplined today than I was 5 or 10 years ago. And so I think the key is that you just keep at it, and gradually over time you develop better. If you're always uncomfortable, that's probably a good sign because it means you're stretching into a new area of proficiency and development. Um, I always try to put something in my day that I enjoy doing. I really enjoyed building out my office and like setting up these shelves and so forth. It's been actually quite fun. It's been a blast. And I enjoy, just like watching the kids play outside, just hearing the birds sing and just being mindful, just being present for that. Usually by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm pretty burned out, creatively speaking. And so if I don't have more work to do, I do try to even out my days with breaks. When I was at the studio, it was a little harder to find that balance. Riot has 9 hour days from 10 to 7, and there's an hour lunch in the middle. So it's technically like an 8 hour workday, but myself and others often did a terrible job of actually taking a break during that 1 hour because lunch is on campus. And so we'd end up just talking work while we were eating and then talking work on the way back. um, some people did better than others with that. They'd get to the gym or they'd, walk off campus or go to the meditation room on campus or just something to unplug and decompress.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can lead to some burnout if you just go hard all day, every day, and you don't take a break. So the good part about that, by the way, was that there was never any overtime. So you were never expected to be there after 7 or before 10. But and they have generous time off. And so using that time off is the challenge, though. It's like, are you actually going to use it? Are you actually going to go and not check your
And
phone
work.
and
Yeah.
actually decompress? And so I've struggled on the other end of the spectrum of overdoing it and not taking enough time to unwind. And so that's been a big journey for me, is learning how to do that. So it's funny you talk about habits, and I'm like, what are my habits? Like I'm so inconsistent. Like I just work really hard until I start feeling myself giving out and I can't do it anymore. And then I take a long break, and then before I'm fully rested again, I get back to work again, and then I burn out again. And then it's
Yeah.
probably not a good example to follow, but I do what I love and I'm really passionate about it. And so at the end of the day, I'm happy. Like
Yeah.
I'm really satisfied with how my life is going and what I've been able to build. But also, I could use a little more serenity in my life and in my soul. So
But this is good stress. I mean, you have nice project, everything it seems to be going well for you. So that's kind of
Yeah,
stimulating. If there is a bit of stress, that's always, the fuel in a way. Whenever you're not that motivated, it kicks you a bit, and you go
I
in.
I get bored very, very easily. Like I said, that was no ding against the studio I was at before that I was bored. That is not against them. It's my thing. Like I get stir crazy, I get bored. So I always am on the move. That's just the way I go.
Cool, cool. So, is there anything you'd like to add to the people watching the interview before we wrap it up?
No, I think we covered it all. Just keep making awesome stuff. You can reach out to me anytime if you have more questions. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. So you can go to the contact page on vfxapprentice.com, and that's where I'm at. So yeah, look
Cool,
forward to hearing
cool.
from you.
Cool. So thank you so much, Jason. I will put all the links in the description for sure. And I wish you the best for the growth of VFX Apprentice. And I probably take a siege in a couple of months to see what
Go
you
for it.
teach there.
Yeah.
That's going to be super interesting, I'm sure. So I wish you the best of success. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you, Pierrick. It's been great.